While I currently claim my Hunter to be my main character, my original first character was actually a Warlock, so for me, there's always been some favoritism towards that class. For a long time, Warlocks were often considered the joke class, with only being good for self-res and offering very little towards team play. The Titans always had their Titan bubble, and Hunters more recently had their Shadow Shot, but Warlocks have never really been considered as a team-based class. The reality is, Warlocks have always been great for team play, but they were often overlooked, and for good reason, but recent changes to the Warlock subclasses have really made them far more appealing as a support class. I'll go over a couple of my favourite builds for each class, and discuss the situations where I would use them in. The Voidwalker has received many improvements to its intrinsic perks that has made it incredibly versatile and dynamic, in both PvE and the Crucible. My ideal build for the Voidwalker would probably look like this, with specific perks like Shatter, Soul Rip, the Hunger, and Embrace the Void. I would probably go with Scatter Grenades for the most part, with or without the Nothing Manacles. So my configuration would look like this, with a 5-5-2 build and an exotic like the Ram, Obsidian Mind, or the Nothing Manacles. I would typically go with a 5-5-2 configuration for most Voidwalker builds, since you want your grenades to cool down as fast as possible with energy drain, so at least max out your discipline. In the Crucible, I might go with the Ophidian aspects, but since the nerf, I've been less inclined to use them. Voidwalkers probably wouldn't be my most used choice for a Warlock in the Crucible, but if you really like to play aggressively and have many means to healing yourself, the Voidwalker is a great class. Up next is the Sunsinger, and again, the 5-5-2 configuration is how I build this class. In the skill tree, I usually spec for Fusion Grenades, Song of Flame, Flame Shield, Viking Funeral, and Touch of Flame. With this configuration, I would use the Starfire protocol to get 2 Fusion Grenades that can ignite the target for extra damage, or if I was going to use Solar Grenades, I'd probably use the Sunbreakers. Self-res are only something I use in specific parts of raids, where unfair deaths can occur. By unfair, I mean there was no reasonable way you could survive the situation, such as the Shade of Oryx instantly killing you as you get teleported, or Axis slingshotting you into the wall. But still, I like to use Radiance as an aggressive super, instead of a passive super. During damage phases of bosses, I use Radiance to deal excellent DPS via Fusion Grenades, and apply a damage debuff for my teammates using Viking Funeral. Against strike bosses, but mostly against raid bosses like Vosik, Axis, the War Priest, and the Templar. Outside of Starfire and the Sunbreakers, I only really use Praxic Fire occasionally for a Song of Flame build, since it cools down other Guardians' abilities faster too. In the Crucible, since the Firebolt nerf, I've pretty much put away my Sunsinger for good. Solar Grenades are still pretty decent, and Fusion Grenades are still as strong as ever, but I'm just not a big fan of that build anymore. Alright, last is the Stormcaller, and this is by far my favourite build for a Warlock. The Stormcaller's super is outstanding at sweeping out adds across most PvE environments, so by having it available as often as possible means you'll be keeping adds at bay. My favourite way to build the Stormcaller is with a 5-2-5 configuration, featuring the Claws of Ahamkara. You could also spec this way for a Voidwalker and use 2 Soul Rip melees, but for the Stormcaller, I use Storm Grenades, Superconductor, Rising Storm, Feedback, and Perpetual Charge. This configuration, coupled with an aggressive playstyle involving melee and grenades, will build up your super in incredible time. Killing enemies, or at the very least hitting them with your Thunderstrike melees, give you super energy, which isn't hard to do since getting melee charges is possible via grenade kills and incoming melee attacks. Give this build a go in strikes, prison, or raids, and see how often you can get your super up. I found the 5-2-5 build to work best for this setup, but a 5-1-5 or even a 5-0-5 would probably still work okay, since melee kills instantly top off your grenade charge, regardless of tier level. This build can definitely extend over to the Crucible, but for the most part, I would make some adjustments. Perpetual Charge is far less important in this environment since the frequency of melee and grenade kills is greatly less than in PvE, so using something like Arc Web or Electrostatic Mind will probably be a better choice. I tend to roll with Arc Web since it can chain your grenades much further, particularly in game modes like Control, with Transcendence and either Ionic Blink or Landfall. I find Transcendence to work better in the Crucible since it will completely top off your health if your other abilities are charged, and coupled with a Landfall attack, it will make you very hard to deal with. The Stormcaller exotics for me will probably be limited to the Impossible Machines, the Claws of Ahamkara, and for smaller game modes, maybe the Light Beyond Nemesis. So to summarise, 5-5-2 for Sunsingers and Voidwalkers, 5-2-5 for a Stormcaller. My ideal exotics would probably be the Starfire Protocol, the Sunbreakers, the Ram, Obsidian Mind, Nothing Manacles, and the Claws of Ahamkara. If you guys have any additional builds that you like, let me know in the comment section below. I'm always interested in your feedback. Thanks for watching, catch you guys later.